Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Diana, could you lead us in the pledge?
Yes, please rise. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Glad to see so many smiling faces here this morning. Call for agenda items for separate action. Adoption of the agenda is posted.
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? What's the other one? Sustained. Motion's approved unanimously. Public testimony on items listed on the agenda? None? Okay. Public testimony on items not listed? None. New business? Resolution 031420-A, emergency resolution delegating authority to take necessary action to protect students and staff from the spread of the coronavirus, COVID-19.
Do we need a motion before we ask
Need a motion,
for a report?
yeah.
Yeah, move approval.
Second.
Discussion.
Can we get a report from staff?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you everybody for coming in at 9 o'clock on Saturday. This has been a challenging week, and as you can tell, things have been rapidly changing over time. So yesterday, behind the scenes at the state level, there were agencies were discussing what next steps needed to be taken. There were calls. We had a call, the working team here with our local partners, the City of Long Beach, the Health Department, and so on. There was a call right after that with the county superintendent and all the county superintendents on the school closures. And so, and what we were when we were talking with our partners with the Health Department, it was recommended that we close for at least 3 weeks because of the spread of the virus. So if one became infected, it would give them plenty of time to be quarantined, so to speak. Then we had discussions, well, we come back in 4 days. We would be back for 4 days for spring break, and they were like, well, if you can close till after spring break, that would be even better. And later data has come out that many health officials and experts believe that the virus will take at least 5 weeks before it peaks. So our 5-week closure, which is actually 19 days of closure, will hopefully mitigate this, but there's no guarantee. We could come back and have to do this all over again. And so people have done a beautiful job here, and I do want to take an opportunity here to thank the team, but especially to thank Jill, Yumi, Tiffany, Chris, Itzin, Chris E., and everybody. To see what's been rolled out in a very short period of time to address 70,000 students, our 10,000 employees, is almost remarkable. I mean, to be very honest with you, everybody, and you really see the character of individuals when you have a crisis. And this is a crisis, and because for us to close schools is really, really difficult. This is not our, priority by any means, because we know that our families have needs. We know that childcare is going to be an issue. We know that continuity of learning is going to be an issue, but it's going to be okay. And I just have to commend the folks for opening all the schools next week for food services. I don't know another districts that are doing it. Many districts are doing something, but I've never seen it. This is remarkable. And so I have just been bombarded from people who don't even have kids in the school system. So this is a drastic measure. We need this approval so that we can even do other things if we have to. And you'll be hearing more from us as we go forth. We're doing a lot of communication. We have some new movie stars here, Dr. Baker, Dr. Brown, Lucy Salazar, and others. OMS, thank you, you guys. You probably have seen some of the videos that are addressed to kids and to parents and to staff. So we will Wednesday give you an update on the continuity of learning, the curriculum. But I do want to give a shout out to our teachers because, again, this is rapid. This was happening really fast. Folks sent home the books. We had teachers that were personally driving to students' houses, delivering what the work plan was going to be. We had teachers emailing their Google Docs, all these things. And so it just shows you what a great place Long Beach is. It's not a perfect place by any means, but there are districts today who haven't decided to close. So they're discussing today and tomorrow whether to close. And so our families have a million questions, and we'll be answering those as we go. But This is unprecedented, and so I just want to thank also the county soups and especially our partners at the Long Beach, Dr. Davis and Dr. Calabi and Emily, they're unbelievable. We are so fortunate to have our own health department, and so they've been great, great partners. And so I don't know if Dr. Baker wants to add anything.
No, we have felt your support in everything that we've done. The coordination with the city has been wonderful. Tiffany and Chris Eftehu have been at the EOC regularly, and just a beautifully coordinated effort. And what our staff has told us is that they're getting coherent information, they're getting clear next steps, and that they're ready and waiting for what we need to do by the end of this week for week 2.
Dr. Baker, on that last point, since there is so much information out there and so many just networks of folks, I think it's important to highlight, particularly at the school site level, to our school site or school-based networks. It's real easy to just copy and repost things that our district is putting up, because inevitably you get into many of these threads, and folks maybe jumping into a thread may not either know where the thread actually originated from, or that they can refer us back. So I would encourage our parents, community groups, other community stakeholders to just copy and repost things that are coming out from our social media. And then, Mr. Superintendent, you alluded to it. I think one of the things that's out there right now is CDC just reported yesterday that unless schools are closed for a prolonged period of time, that it doesn't really mitigate, right, that we're not going to peak until potentially 5 weeks. So I think it's important for our community members to know that this is a short-term closure, and that it's very likely, right, that we'll have to extend this, given that CDC said at least 8 weeks sometimes.
Right.
Particularly for school districts.
And this is really critical when we made this decision to go out until after spring break.
Right.
Was many districts, as you know, are closing for 2 weeks.
Right.
But then they're going to make the decision to whether they have to close for another 2 or 3 weeks. We know how complicated childcare and all these other issues are, so we just decided to bite the bullet, rip the Band-Aid off, and do it as one, because we have thousands of people that are scrambling right now to find all these things that they have to do. And so it would not be in their best interest if we did it and said we're coming back, and then 2 days later say we're out for 3 more weeks.
Right.
So, so I really want to thank our staff and our partners at the city, because it was a difficult discussion, but one that we all came to agreement with, that was the right thing to do. And like you said, Dr. Benitez, it could be another 5 weeks. We just don't know.
Right.
We just don't know.
Right.
May I
go
address
ahead,
a couple
please.
things that you said to Dr. Benitez? That I want to acknowledge Ms. Secchi and her team and teachers who are contributing to the development of many different ways that students will be engaged in learning after this week. So obviously we put a pause on the first week, but we'll be distributing all different ways that learning will continue, with a focus on high school credits for obvious reasons. But the team, long before the decision yesterday, had been working on those efforts and getting us prepared. We'll engage teachers in that process in the coming week. So really an important aspect. And just to acknowledge that Chris Eftehu and Chris Sitzen will be working with the local agencies to do some retweeting and reposting of our content to make sure that it's getting to the widest market possible in the days to come.
Jill, you mentioned the ways that instruction will be delivered to our kids. Has that information been disseminated yet?
Not yet. That will be the work of this week, after we ensure that the meal program is up and running and kids have access to their basic needs.
Additionally, a lot of questions are coming
Yes.
in on that process, and
Yeah.
particularly in those areas that have low access to internet.
Yeah, so just so you know, we'll spend the week. We want to be really thoughtful and not just send things home rapidly.
Good idea.
We need to think of all means all, and all of our students, and what that's going to mean for general education students, for special education students, the multiple platforms, how students may be able to access paper and pencil kinds of activities from the school at a certain time. So hopefully by midweek board meeting, we'll have an additional update, and certainly by end of week, we'll be ready
Okay.
to deploy that.
All right.
Thank you, Dr. Baker. I think additionally, the resolution is written broad enough to address sort of just the broad range of questions and inquiries and concerns that we're getting. I know that the superintendent and our executive staff is gonna lead with kindness and empathy, and grace, and just an overall humanity, but there are a lot of questions still out there, so I wanna highlight, that because the resolution is written broadly, that things like, questions that I'm sure all of us are getting, rethinking how we could use school spaces, right, if it comes to health-related issues. Making sure that our staff don't get penalized, right, if they are not able to work. I know that all these things are into the resolution, but I know that folks have questions about these things. Working with community partners and exploring ways where we could either get information out, or in some cases may have to arrange for transportation of meals, right, for folks that can't get to school sites. Other things that are out there in terms of inquiries, in terms of also, you talked about it, alternate modes of education, right? There's a lot of stuff out there on social media about certain companies offering either free or reduced rate internet access. I'm not gonna mention the companies, but companies that do virtual meetings, offering those platforms as well, right? So that we can mitigate some of the accessibility issues that our community is facing. But again, I'm confident, I know that our district leadership is gonna lead with compassion, particularly for our most vulnerable populations, households, families that don't have access to healthcare currently, our undocumented populations, right? Just working families, folks that don't have access to childcare as well. So I wanna thank everything that our staff has been doing, but particularly, again, that we're leading with kindness, grace, compassion, and an overall humanity. And the resolution upholds and reflects our ability and the necessity to be nimble at this time. So, thank you.
Other questions, discussion?
I just had a couple of questions and more for clarification, because I know as I look at the team that's assembled, and it is a small but mighty team today, but who represent the vast number of people who are doing almost round the clock work right now. Around translation issues, we know that we're getting that done as quickly as possible, so just reassuring people that yes, translation of our various documents are on the way. Nutrition Services put up a great graphic pretty late last night. I think that's an incredible tool, just those small things. But again, if we have them multilingual would be helpful, because that's something someone can capture on their phone and keep. So I applaud Nutrition Services, or whomever, if it was Mr. Itzen who did that late last night. But just to reassure folks that the language access piece we understand greatly, and we're looking at ways to be innovative and provide even more access than usual, because we know that the hardship on this will impact our already vulnerable families. And that's part of the very complex web of information that was part of the decision, is understanding what childcare looks like. Was talking with someone yesterday, acknowledging that we know that the schools for some of our children are their safest and most stable place. And so issues of domestic violence and just physical safety for students to be home in a place that might not be safe for 5 weeks, and what does that look like, and how do we offer support? So again, my huge thanks to the team who has been working tirelessly and answering way too many of my texts. My apologies. And I think that's it. I think we ask for patience as this moves. We've talked about how we have a conversation at 2 o'clock on Thursday, and by 4 o'clock on Thursday, it's already different information, and almost the need to timestamp every single thing that we say, because they said, you said this. Well, that was 6 hours ago. Things are vastly different now. So I ask for patience from families and communities, that we know the information that we're getting is changing near constantly, and we are updating as quickly as we can and as thoroughly, because I do believe that having thorough and straightforward information, even if it's not a lot, really helps to quell some of the panic or concern that might be arising in communities that are feeling really extra vulnerable right now. So I just want to say thank you to everyone who's working so hard.
Further discussion?
I actually do have a question, because there have been a lot of folks that are reaching out and saying, how can we help? What is the appropriate avenue to direct folks that either want to contribute financially and or just be a resource?
It's So I actually, thank you for asking that. I had a conversation with Dr. Salazar yesterday, who leads LBEF, the Education Foundation. She had a number of community members call and ask the same question, and right now, for immediate, they can use the LBEF webpage to make a donation. If it's a donation,
Sure.
a large donation, she is ready and willing to put that money into funds for use to mitigate some of what families are experiencing and what students are experiencing, and to contribute to anything about internet access or anything that we may need. So she's had a number of calls and is prepared to go into.
Has that been posted anywhere, Jill?
I'm not sure, but that's something we'll put on our list. Yep.
Thank you.
Further discussion?
I just want to mention that I know this is a huge decision, and it's hasn't been taken lightly, and we have a very capable team working on this. But throughout history, when we've encountered other pandemics or widespread viruses, it's those communities that engage in preemptive measures that do better than those communities that just try and ride it out without taking preventative measures. And I think we're learning not just from our current data and scientific research that shows us everything, but also from history. And I think we're going to be on the right side of history here. It may seem that 5 weeks is a long time to some people, but that's the amount of time that's going to be necessary to keep our families, our kids and our families healthy. And this is our part in the overall picture of public health right now. And so for those families that are feeling that this is very disruptive, which it is, and to say it's an inconvenience is such an understatement, but it's something that's absolutely necessary, and we just have to be smart. We cannot panic. We cannot feed into this, trend these last few days of hoarding, that type of behavior, that we have to be smart and engage in activities like social distancing and hand washing, singing the happy birthday song twice, that kind of thing. We have to be smart in our day-to-day activities and do everything we can to make sure that we keep the greatest number of people healthy. So even though this is a drastic measure, and I believe it's only happened once or twice, the 1933 earthquake and during the riots of the early 90s, I should say. So this doesn't happen very often, and there's really not a playbook for what we're doing. But that goes to the team that's working on this, that goes to the talent, commitment, dedication of the people who are working on this. I was here in the office after the announcement had been made, and there weren't very many phone calls, actually very few. And that speaks to the quality of information being put out. And I think people will be patient. I think they will know that more information will be coming, because we have the information we need to start this process, and everybody knows, okay, week 1, this is what we're doing. And we will be prepared for all those questions coming. Things are happening quickly, so I know I've been, receiving questions about what are we doing with our high school seniors. The spring for your senior year is pivotal as far as all the tests, SATs and AP tests and all these things. This is crunch time for our high school seniors. And I know that we will address all these things. Not every detail can be addressed all at the same time, but everything will be addressed. So when we're asking for people to be patient, that's part of what we're asking for, is to let us have that time to figure things out and get that information out that we do care about. everybody, not just our high school seniors, but everybody. I'm also concerned with our families that don't have access to the internet. How are we gonna serve those kids? Because we are all means all. So maybe some things are gonna take a little bit more fine tuning, but we will address all these things.
Further discussion?
I think we all acknowledge that times could get tougher, but there's a real difference between managers and leaders. And I just want to herald our superintendent and his staff, because we have a great team of leaders. Unlike some other aspects in our nation, I trust these good folks, and we're going to find a way to prevail. Thank you, Mr. Steinhauser and staff.
We have a few other items we'd like to share, Dr.
Sure,
Baker.
just three things that I thought of that would be good for you to know too. So we do have paper copies of just basic information translated that will be posted up in the school windows for folks that walk up Monday and have not received through social media that information, specifics about closure, and then specifics about meals. So that's our first week, just hard copy flyers that will go up translated at schools. We also, while we first told admin staff that we needed them to stay tuned yesterday, we now have them coming to make sure that there's supervision of the meal services, especially for the first few days until we know how many students are going to participate in that. So we will have administrative staff coming back to do that supervision. And then also, just on a really positive note, we have great plans to involve our students in the kind of communication that we're doing to the community. So stay tuned. We'll have students in a safe, distanced, sanitized way, but share their voice as part of what we're going to communicate in the weeks ahead.
Dr. Baker, on the communications piece, I think it would be also helpful to remind, particularly parents. So right now, as a parent, I'm getting text messages, emails, phone calls in some instances. I don't specifically remember, was that something that I went on to Parent View and said, here's my preferred method of, okay, so I think it would be important to remind,
Okay.
however, that this is the way to stay informed, right? So I think I left all of mine on because I get 10 things, which is great, right? But for those parents that either don't remember or made a decision to turn those off,
Right, that want
right
to
now is
turn-
the
yeah.
time to go back on and say, here's my preferred method of communication,
Great,
right?
great suggestion, thank you.
Any additional discussion?
Yeah, actually, sorry, I know this is probably taking longer than we thought. I just wanted to address one of the things that Ms. Craig had said is all of this research around that we'll get through this and we're gonna do all these things. There's also tremendous research around social supports during crises. I read a great book or audiobook I don't know, it was a year ago, called Palaces for the People, which really talks about snowstorms in Chicago, and they look at neighborhoods and they look at similar zip codes, so demographic information, and one fared significantly better than the other, even though most of the demographics were the same. And it was because the sense of community there, they had folks checking on each other. Some of it had to do with infrastructure within the city, but really that social network of making sure you're checking on your people and you're checking on people who might not have any people matters. And so the outpouring of support that people are saying, lots of people offering to drive meals to folks who can't get out to school sites. I think come Wednesday, after we've had a couple of days of letting this settle in and what does this look like, we might be able to harness that a little better when we realize what our needs might be. But I've seen a great outpouring of how we'll take care of each other and check on each other during this time. And I can't emphasize how important that will be, especially for seniors, not seniors in high school, but older folks in your communities who may not have a lot of visitors. And if they haven't had a lot of visitors, if you're healthy, very healthy, wash your hands and go check on them.
Yeah, that was a point that the mayor made yesterday at the press conference, which I thought was very instructional of him to do that, to send a message out to the community to look into the elderly as frequently as possible. And I know that's something they do in Cuba as a matter of course. They have that structure where they have community groups whose job is to really look after the elderly in the community. Additional discussion, further discussion? We'll call for the vote. It'll be a roll call vote. Letitia will call the roll. That's what I was told you would be calling the roll.
Member Kerr?
Aye.
Member Benitez?
Aye.
President Williams?
Aye?
Member Meyer?
Aye.
Member Craighead?
Aye.
Passes unanimously.
All right, thank you so much, Letitia. Report of board members, let me go with Megan first.
I think I've said it all. Thank you.
Okay.
I appreciate all of you.
Dr. Benitez?
Likewise, appreciate everyone here and everyone at the school site and all those community partners that have reached out to ask how they can help.
Diana?
I echo that sentiment. I was here yesterday afternoon. It was a day where maybe people of lesser quality might not have handled it as well. And yesterday, even though there was this, there were very serious decisions that needed to be made, and it was honestly a day of crisis. People had cool heads, people were still being kind to one another, and just taking it in stride. Yes, people were more on the serious side, because of the weight of the situation, but everybody was handling it so well. I was very impressed. So I do want to thank everybody for the way everything is handled, and also that everybody's pulling together. And as Ms. Kerr was saying, that is so beneficial to us as a community. So if we can remain strong, if we can help one another, I think that's what we should focus on.
John?
I'll wait for a regular board member, thank you.
Okay. Just quickly, I was very pleased to see at the press conference, Chris, the mayor, and Dr. Davis speak to this issue. And their message going out was very consistent about what needs to be done and the fact that the community needs to pull together for this. So you're seeing all around in this city people recognizing what needs to be done and basically moving together to get it done. And for our people here at Long Beach Unified School District, all of you go out of your way to do what's necessary for the safety and health of our kids, and it's deeply appreciated.
Mr. President, I do have a question as you were mentioning that. Potentially this could be a Brant question. So if there is a need to either hold additional emergency meetings and or adjust schedules of meetings, I know that we have some of those coming up at our upcoming board meeting. What is the policy, Brant, or what are the guidelines on if needed to have a virtual meeting? I mean, I just kind of all of the above on flexibility in meetings moving forward, Brent.
Yeah, great question. In normal times, whenever you have a teleconference meeting, there are a lot of difficult requirements to comply with. Those have now been virtually wiped out by executive order of the governor, and I applaud his foresight with that. So the new rule is that with any of our meetings, any of you board members are able to call in on those meetings. You do not have to be here. In fact, not one of you has to be here. So long as there is a majority, then you could all be able to call in virtually. The continuing rule is that there needs to be a place, and this will always be the place, where a member of the public can come and observe, listen, and speak. So those are our requirements. Anytime we have a teleconference vote, we still need to do every vote similar to what you did today. It needs to be a roll call vote, so that each person is called on for each and every vote. In terms of emergency meetings such as this, we gave about 18 hours notice. An emergency meeting, when it's required, can actually be called within 1 hour. So we will be nimble. You have given the authority for the superintendent to be agile, to address the shifting sands on the dunes that we're standing on right now. Have I answered your question?
Thank you, Brent. Absolutely.
By the way, I encourage you, right? You've heard this before, but I'm just going to be a nag. If you're sick, if you're worried, if you are vulnerable, please call in. There's nothing brave about putting yourself or anybody else in harm's way. So please take advantage of that. And we'll place that on each of the agendas so that you'll be able to call in on any of those occasions.
Thanks, Brent.
superintendent's report. Announcements.
Now's the time to come together, Long Beach.
All right, entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
We are adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Have a